Welcome to Forward Unfiltered. This is the second episode. So let me quickly go through this without damn apologetic with regarding to gifted and talented education and our Black and Latinx students. No apology. Unfiltered. There are 10 ways that schools can make gifted and talented, remember GATE, identification more equitable. I want you to keep in mind that first, these views are my own and have been for decades. And I'm not going to change this, all right? No apologies. So with this said, I want you to keep in mind that our brilliant and Latinx children, our students, are ready. The question is, and the problem is, whether our educational systems are ready to find and support these two underrepresented, marginalized students. So I'm going to give 10 recommendations. So why does this matter? Again, every Black and brown student, regardless of their family income, they have the promise that has been broken systematically and for generations. The problem is not the children. The problem is never the children. It is the educational professionals. It is the professional adults. So let's quickly go over 10 ways. 1, implement universal screening without exception, and more precisely, implement district screening and building screening. And that way you get to compare, so to speak, students from the same backgrounds to those from the same backgrounds. And that is why my favorite 1993 federal definition of gifted and talented exists, all right? You don't compare children who are high income to low income. You don't compare children who speak mainstream English to those who don't. You don't compare children who are more privileged to those who are less privileged. You compare those coming from the same background. And that's where universal screening comes into place. So with that said, teacher referrals, and not just teachers, but counselors, administrators, educator referrals are the single greatest structural barrier to racial equity and gifted identification. Use multiple measures. When you go to the doctor and you want to get a diagnosis, do you expect them to just take one document like your temperature or your weight and then make a diagnosis? If you do, something wrong with you. No, you don't want just to focus on identification. What you want is assessment, thorough assessment, all right? And you want it to be tailored to your family and cultural background. Think about the questions that I know I've been asked for years when I go to a doctor about, family. Do they have this? Blah, 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 blah. All right. So this context matters. So stop testing malpractice. Same as educational malpractice. Start treating teacher and educator referrals as gatekeepers, unfortunately, to gifted and talented education. And they hold the key. If you want to use, and I know I do, the analogy of gifted and talented education, being the same as gatekeeping, all right? So, teachers' perceptions just continue to matter. Build systems that do not require a Black and Latinx student to impress a gatekeeper before and after their potential is hopefully equitably and culturally responsibly evaluated. This is almost a repeat. Use local norms. Stop penalizing Black and Latinx students for their zip code. Their zip code, as I've said, is not their damn destiny. A child who scores at the whatever percent, 90th percentile in their community is not less gifted and talented because their community has been denied access to the same resources that inflate national norms and support and endorse high-income white students. Provide real professional development, not a one-day workshop. And I can just keep it there. Why do educators just choose a one-day workshop and think that's going to have damn impact? And also, they would choose a workshop from Dr. Ford, professor, rather than Donna from Cleveland, because I'm going to tell it like it is and keep it down real. And it's called a pedagogy of discomfort. And educators, especially with the current administration, leaders with the current administration, don't want to deal with this. And even before this administration, did they really want to? Read my damn mind. 6, offer multiple entry points. There's no expiration date on whether you are gifted and talented. So stop it. Have ongoing, not testing, but ongoing assessment using what was already been said earlier. Be equitable. Universal screening to the line of building and district screening. Expand the definition of gifts and talents. Expand it. Don't just use it in Eurocentric ways. Don't just use it in marginalized, ways. Don't just use it in ways that have traditionally been done for saying that white students are genetically superior to Black and brown students. That's some BS. I had to pause on that, so I didn't go off really. Next, which is really number 8, review program demographics regularly with accountability. All right, so ongoing reviews, so that kind of repeats. And I hope that you all will adopt the 80% index rule that I use in a court case, McFadden versus Illinois School District U46, all right, which is Elgin, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. And the formula is if let's go with Hispanic. Let's go with Latinx, I'm sorry. If Latinx students are 40% of the district, which they were in this court case, 40% times 80%, or 0.8 is 32. So at the minimum, so Latinx students are 40% of the district. So at minimum, 40% times 80% is 32. So they need to be a minimum of 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, all right, percent of the district. If you go and start saying, like they got to be 40% because they're 40%, then that is, though I support it, but that is illegal, all right? Yeah, I support it, but it's illegal, all right? So, and then there's also a formula for overrepresentation, but that's not our focus here. And the focus would be on white students. So white students, let's say they're 40% of the district, which they were also in Elgin, Illinois. So 40% times 1.2 equals 46%. So at one point, they were like 98% of the gifted and talented program in middle school. So they need to go down from 98% down drastically, freaking drastically, from 98% to 48%. Okay, so this sets your minimum and your maximum underrepresentation, overrepresentation. All right, partner with families. I didn't just say parents, I said families, because they truly are, and now I'm talking about Black and Latinx families too, the cultural experts for their children. They may not, and I said may not be, really familiar with GATE because we've been overrepresented for centuries. So they may not be familiar, but they damn sure know the culture of their children. And that is without any, professional or PD or university classes, anything. This is their lived experiences. So when you are talking about how can we recruit and retain more Black and Latinx students in GATE, families damn matter. Last, conduct equity audits. And again, that includes using my formula and continuing to do that. So examine everything that we have talked about. Well, not we, but I've talked about thus far. So equity in GATE does not occur by chance. It occurs when educators make specific structural changes, make and determine what the outcomes or what they want to be, accountability, and hold themselves accountable. Stop putting the pressure on our children. You're the adult. You're the professional. Stop it. Everything that I've said thus far needs to be implemented. A Black and a brown child who should be in your GATE program right now, the one who teaches himself, leads his or her peers, creates things schools don't have, Category 4, is not waiting for a task force. That child is in your school today. And these 10 ways are how you can help, not just find, but support them. Let me end by saying brilliance is universal. Recognition is not. These are 10 ways to close that damn recommendation gap.